Are you a fan of using acrylic paints? They're very, very common. We use them all the time at our school, and I wanted to give you a few tips about how you can prolong the life of your acrylic paint and just treat it with a bit of TLC. Okay, so hopefully you love this video. Give it a thumbs up and please subscribe if you haven't already. Let's rock and or roll. Number one tip I would say is that keep your acrylic paints stored out of the sun. Sometimes that might be difficult to do depending on your storage situation and how you organize things. If you have beautiful big windows in your home and you're storing your paints near a window, that's probably not the thing to do. Put it away, store it somewhere secure. That's also not going to be too hot. You want to keep them out of the sun at a really good constant temperature. Tip number two is with your acrylic paints, and I'm shaking this one now and I can kind of hear why I need to give it a shake, and that's one of my tips, is that you need to make sure that you shake your paints and that you keep the lids on really, really tight. What can happen with some of these acrylic paints, because if they're just sitting around, like say you bought so many of these little tubes, right, and you've got big plans, but then your plans don't eventuate for quite a number of months and your acrylic paints are just sitting around, what can happen inside this little tube is that it actually starts to separate. And so when you go to use it, take off the lid and you pour it on your palette and you get all of this clear, sticky liquid, and then a little bit of pigment starts to sort of drop through. And it's because everything's separated. So my advice would be to, every so often, make sure that you give your paints a really good shake, and also that your lids are on really, really tight so that your paints don't dry out. My other tip, and this does have something to do with lids, but maybe you have graduated from these teeny tiny bottles here and you're actually getting larger size bottles. This particular brand, Chromacryl, however you want to say it, we've got a video about this on our channel actually, if you want to know all about these particular types of paint. We've got a full review, but if you've got certain types of paint sizes, like these ones here, these are a 1 litre bottle, and the caps that I've bought for these have a sort of, not a suction function, but they have a squeeze top inside the lid, and that prevents too much paint from coming out of the bottle. So that's something that with our kids is a really big problem, because they often end up grabbing these and just like squeezing them on their page like that, and they get so much paint you can't really put it back in the bottle again to be reused because it gets contaminated. The next tip is about extending the life of your paint. Now this really only works if you've got these sort of larger sized bottles. We've even got the 2 litre sized bottles here. It's not going to work if you've got the little tubes, because my tip is that you can get more paint out of your bottles if you add hot water towards the end. One of the issues that we've found with acrylic paint is that it can be really, really difficult to get the last of the paint out of the bottle. It sticks to the sides, it stays down the bottom, it gets stuck up in handles and things if you've got the big bottles like this one. It makes it really tricky. But if you add a bit of hot water, not very much, just a little bit at a time, and give it a really, really good shake, it actually makes all of the paint a bit more fluid and you're able to squeeze more of it out of the bottle. Do need to be careful though, because if you add too much water, it will completely change the consistency of the paint and make it too watery, which is probably not what you want. But some of these decent quality paints, and I do say decent quality, not the super duper cheapy stuff, that's already too watery as it is. But some of these sort of mid-range ones are really quite good, and you can add a little bit of water to them to extend their life. So tell me if you've been in this situation before. You've done some beautiful painting and you have all these excellent colors that you've taken time to mix up, or maybe you've squirted a bit of paint out into your palette and there's some left and you don't want to get rid of it. You want to reuse it. Let me show you the best way to reuse it. Here we have a palette with paint in it, and I'm going to show you what to do. First of all, now acrylic paint, it is a water-based paint, which means we can add a little bit of water to it and it's not going to affect it very much. So what I tend to do here, and I teach all of our students, is that you get yourself a spray bottle, and these are only maybe $1 from Bunnings, and then on your paint palette, let's give it a little bit of a spray, all right? So just a little bit, don't need much, maybe just 1 or 2 short little sprays in the paint, just like that. And what this helps to do is keep the paint moist so you can reuse it later on down the track. Next, once you've sprayed it, you need to wrap it, okay? Let's get some cling film, basic cling film. Don't need to do anything too super duper fancy with this stuff. Although, man, this stuff does cling to itself. It's a little bit of a worry. Okay, so got your cling film, and then you need to make sure that your palette is really, really well covered, okay? Super duper well covered so that there's nothing sort of poking out, and that's it. Oh my goodness me, guess how much longer this is gonna last? At least 2 to 3 weeks. I know, that's pretty crazy because otherwise this paint would just dry out in no time flat. Even within maybe an hour or 2, you might be on struggle street trying to use that paint. So Dad is a professional artist and he has so many acrylic paints at home. They're in like little empty vitamin containers. So he paints the lid with the color that's inside, adds a little bit of spray of water to it, and then puts the lid on top, and that little bit of paint will last 2 to 3 months like that.
If the lid's in good condition.
If the lid's in good condition and it's kept out of the sun and all that stuff. Awesome. Oh, well, there you go, guys. I hope that you enjoyed these tips, and well, let us know how you go. Will you be using these tips yourself in your own artwork from now on? Please throw us a like and subscribe to our channel, and we will be back next Thursday. We look forward to seeing you then. Have a great rest of the day or the week, and we'll see you later. Bye.